Hey, good afternoon. This is your coffee break with HD Rhodes. And the word for today is leadership. Leadership. You go HD Rhodes. Why is the word for today leadership? Because you know what? It's one of the things in which I realize these days not too many people really truly understand. And it's kind of actually one of those things in which after all the work that John C. Maxwell has done, after all the education, after all the books he's written, after all the seminars he's taught, it's the one still thing in which, unfortunately, we're missing a lot of these days. Why? Because it's so easy in today's culture to just go ahead and blend in. In fact, there's a lot of people who are awarded, or I should say rewarded, to simply just go ahead and get along to get along, man. You know what? They just go ahead to get along. There's a lot of people just go with the flow. Don't you understand the dead fish float and they go upstream? If you want to be a leader, sometimes you got to go against the grain. Like, can you imagine if Rosa Parks didn't sit in the front of the bus? Can you imagine if Martin Luther King didn't take a stance and he didn't do those marches throughout Selma and Birmingham, Alabama? Could you imagine if Malcolm X, of all people, didn't stand his ground? You know what? Imagine that. And you know what? This is what I'm talking about leadership. In fact, one of the number one rules of leadership is to be passionate and take a stance. And it doesn't matter what other people think, how other people feel. Sometimes you got to just take a stance because it's the right thing to do. And if you imagine the fact that, what if nobody stood against Hitler when he was going on his tear? And he said everyone had to have blue eyes. Everyone had to have brown, blue eyes and blonde hair. And that was kind of interesting. I always wondered because he didn't even fit his own description. But anyways, that's a different point. My point is about leadership. You know what? Sometimes you got to understand, it's not always easy to be a leader, and it shouldn't be easy to be a leader. I mean, after all, why would anyone want to follow someone who just goes with the flow? I mean, why would anyone just want to follow anyone who, guess what? They could do the same thing that everyone else does. You go, HD, are you saying that leaders are appointed, leaders are ordained? Are you saying that leaders are touched in some special way? No. What I'm telling you is leaders are the individuals who, like Megan Lynch, they take a stance. Megan Lynch, literally 10 years ago, I was reading a newspaper, and it was out of Indiana, and it talked about how she was at a funeral, and she was literally an English teacher, and she was sick and tired of going to funerals of those kids she is teaching in her classroom year after year, and finally one day she took a stance. She made a decision. She said enough is enough, and she decided right then and there she was going to make a change. 10 years later, Megan Lynch, the same person who started SOS, Save Our Sons, based off of being able to teach entrepreneurship to children out of the inner city, away from her teaching job. Now, she was a single mother of 2 kids, but she took time after school to start teaching the youth to be able to go ahead and run their own businesses honestly, legally, and morally. 10 years later, she's the creator and co-founder and owner of one of the number one business opportunities in 2025 called Vibe. And you know what I call that? Leadership. Because you know what? She could have easily quit when she joined other network marketing companies and she's only making $17 an hour. I'm sorry, excuse me. That actually would have been a promotion and a raise. She was only making $17 a month in TLC. And I'm not saying that that's not a good business opportunity, but what I'm saying is that that opportunity wasn't paying her what she's worth. But you know what? I know there's other leaders like Stormy Daniels who's making millions of dollars, but the point of this is leadership. Megan Lynch, she never gave up. She never quit. She kept honing her craft. She went through 1 company, 2 companies, 3 companies, 4. But guess what? By the time she went ahead and discovered Forex, is a trade, is an industry in which anyone, doesn't matter your age, your sex, your color, your creed, your religion, if they would go ahead and be diligent to go ahead and learn the art of trading, they could go ahead and sit home, even in the midst of COVID, and make as much or as little money as they wanted every day. And she went ahead and took that challenge. She learned how to go ahead and trade Forex. But even more so, she had an opportunity to be able to be mentored by a multimillionaire by the name of Robert Dean. Robert Dean's making over $45 million a year. And you know what she did? She learned. She studied. She showed herself discipline. And now, because of that, Megan Lynch has made tens of millions of dollars. She's reached back into the community. She's helped other teachers who she used to work with. She's helped other brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, and even grandparents of all ages, race, creeds, and colors. And you know what I call that? A leader. Because recently, as of December 17th, she put her foot in the ground. She put a stake in the ground, and she decided that she was going to launch her own company. And you know what I call that? A leader. And that's the kind of people you follow. Someone who's been proven, someone who's been in the trenches, someone who didn't quit, someone who's won, and then someone who went from success to significance. And that's what my definition of a leader is today. And so I want you to go ahead and think about that. After all the trials and tests and everything you went through, did you give up on your dreams? Are you still fighting for your dreams? After all the things you've been through, are you worthy of people following? Or are you just going along with the flow? I'm going to be quiet for a second. I want you to think about that. If you want to have that label called a leader, you got to be one that people know that come hell or high water, you're willing to fight to accomplish your dreams, goals, and visions, and to be able to help all those coming up behind you to hold off the door and to help them win too. I'm HD Rhodes, and the word for leadership, the word for today is leadership, and this should have been Coffee You Break for the day. One more time, I'm HD Rhodes, and this has been your coffee break for today. I'm out.